It's time for the Douglas Coleman Show. Mr. Smooth and Savvy is joined by guests from all walks of life, from the entertainment industry to authors to political and social commentators, the famous and not so famous, the controversial and the light and fluffy. We have it all. Now, here's Douglas Coleman.
Okay, please welcome to the Douglas Coleman Show, David C. Williams. Hi, David. How are you?
Doing well. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year to you. Thank you for coming on the show. I got a very short bio for you. I'm hoping that you can fill in the blanks and tell us a little bit about yourself. The first thing I wanted to ask you was Queen's Court Season 2 contestant. Now, I've never heard of that show, but when I read the title, is this like The Bachelor?
Similar. It is. There's 3 celebrity women who are choosing a suitor of 22 potential mates or kingsmen.
Okay, so Queen's Court. So the woman is presumably a queen or pretending to be?
Not quite. Well, I mean, in their own right, they are queens. And so the celebrities was LisaRaye. She's a Hollywood actor, longtime celebrity and star, been in a lot of different films. K. Michelle, I believe she's a Grammy-nominated R&B singer. She's done a country album that went really big last year, just before Beyonce's. And London Charles, she's a celebrity who's been in a number of TV shows, Flavor of Love with Flavor Flav and some other things as well.
Oh, I see. So the women are celebrity women and the men are not celebrities?
Not quite, no.
Not quite.
So different backgrounds, construction, corporate, entrepreneurs, restaurant owners, engineers, all sorts of different backgrounds.
Okay, but not necessarily entertainment celebrities.
Correct.
Okay, I got you. Did this already happen?
It did. Yeah, man. It went great.
Did you
season
win?
Aired this fall. I did pretty good. I made it to the end, and there was a little bit of a twist to the end. The last episode where the queens will select a person or select a king, LisaRaye actually did not select anyone, and so it was down to myself and one other gentleman, and she chose to work on her own mental health. She had just recently had her mother and her aunt that passed, and so there was her aunt actually passed during the filming, so there was a lot that was going on, and so she didn't select someone, but I did make it to the final 2, and it's been a ton of great relationships and friendships through it all. You
made it to the final 2 out of 20 some guys?
Yeah, so there was probably, I think each of the queens got down to 2 gentlemen at the end, and they, would either choose to select a king and go off into Never Never Land and live happy ever after, or in this case, she chose not to select, and we're all just friends.
Oh, well, you did pretty well then.
Yeah. It was an interesting experience, I tell you. They put you right in front of when they say action, they mean action now. And so what you don't know is once the cameras start rolling and you're talking in a conversation, you probably have like 3 or 4 minutes before somebody comes to interrupt you. So they'll send another guy to stop you in the middle of whatever you're saying or doing. And so whatever it is you got, you better get it off your chest as quick as you can, because you don't have a lot of time.
So did you get paid for this?
They did try to pay. I actually donated everything to I do a lot with kids and community outreach and engagement groups. And so I just donated everything to that. That was very cool.
Oh, well, that was nice. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about the old dating game show. Do you remember that? Maybe you're too young for it.
Yes, I do. Where they would have 3 people sitting in a chair and talking behind a panel, a hidden wall or something like that.
Right, and there were a lot of celebrities at the time who were on that who weren't celebrities necessarily, like Tom Selleck was on there when he was just, barely 20 years old. But the point that I'm trying to get to is that once the pair had been selected. They went off somewhere on a date, but it was like they'd send them to Rome for a week or something like that. If she had selected somebody, what would you do? Would you be going off on a romantic cruise, or was it just for dinner, or what was the prize?
No, it was for all the marbles, and so it would be a relationship that you would see how long and how healthy you can maintain and sustain it. And so had she selected someone, then I imagine at that point folks would be figuring out long distance relationships or travel arrangements.
So you had to keep this thing going, and were they going to be filming you for the whole thing?
Well, they did. So it was filmed last year and it aired this year. It was filmed in 23 and it aired in 24 at the end of 24. And there were a number of different dates we went on. So it wasn't just like sitting in a studio and asking and answering questions. There was outdoor adventures. We went ATV riding. There were cooking classes or, chef kind of dinner evenings.
I see.
Casino nights.
And that was all part of
different things like that.
Okay, and that was all part of the selection process. If you
Correct.
will. Oh, I get it. Okay.
Correct.
Well, that sounds more interesting than just sitting there answering questions about. Yeah.
Yeah. And so every now and then they'd have elimination dinners, and one or more people may have to go home. And so you're doing your best not to make it to an elimination dinner. And if you do, hopefully you can fight for another day.
Well, at least you eat before you go,
Maybe,
Maybe they pull the plate out from under you.
Yeah, well, Hollywood can be a lot of hurry up and wait. And so the food that's in front of you may look good, but it might be cold as ice by the time they say action.
Yeah, there is a lot of fake food in Hollywood. I remember there was a story about back in the old days that they would use mashed potatoes to represent ice cream because ice cream would melt under the hot lights.
Melt under the cameras.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I
Exactly.
can just imagine trying to eat mashed potatoes and pretending it's ice cream.
Now that's acting.
That is acting. You should get an Oscar for that one, I think. Yeah.
No kidding.
Definitely. So then that's that, right? I mean, you're not going to go back again, or it's done?
No, I probably wouldn't do another dating show, but it was a wonderful experience, man, just to see how a production is done. The crew had to be at least 100 people in the crew. As we got to the end of the season, and the kind of the big finale they were looking for, you have conversations with some of the executive producers and all that kind of stuff. So it's a wonderful experience, man. And then the exposure is just crazy. I find myself in airports and folks recognize me, and, different events I've been to, award shows, folks want to interview you or ask you questions on the red carpet. So it's been a wonderful experience.
Did you audition for this?
No, I didn't. Strangely enough, they slid in my DMs on Instagram and asked me if I would participate. When that happened, I thought it was a joke, and so I just ignored it. They hit me up again, and I was like, let me at least see what they're talking about. And they had 4 or 5 producers on a Zoom call. And I was like, okay, this is serious. I was still kind of on the fence about it all. And then probably just before they got started, my brother convinced me, this is probably one to check out, man.
Wow, so they just came looking for you.
Yeah, it was pretty flattering and, a unique experience altogether.
Well, are you fairly famous outside of, do you do any acting, or have you been on TV before they would know who you are?
Well, no acting, but, I spent some time at AT&T and led a award-winning hyper-automation organization. I won a Black Engineer of the Year award twice. I did some work during COVID, so 40,000 people could work from home. I wrote a Amazon best-selling book. I have a couple of patents under my name. And so it's just, as well as I do a lot of work in communities and help kids. I believe small ideas are bright ideas. I'm from a very poor neighborhood in Dallas, Texas. And so I wanted to make sure that I could help kids see that, you have options too, and it's not always about making a draft or something. You can do a lot with STEM. And so I think through all of those types of, efforts that I do and the social stuff around it is how they got wind of me.
Well, you were just mentioning your book. Your book is called Business Model.
Yes.
Is this your first published book, or have you done other books?
No, this is my first.
So why did you decide to write a book?
Well, it was spring or so, or summer of 21. And I had just came off the heels of doing some work so that a bunch of people could work from home during the pandemic. It was like a big rush to get it done so they could work securely. And I got nominated and won a Black Engineer of the Year award from that. The book encapsulates that story. It starts when I'm 8 and a tragic suicide of my father at my house, at our home, and then it ends winning that award. And so it's a book that just talks about when incredible will meets professional skill, and that everybody has their own business model, man. If you can, leverage the experiences that you've been through with whatever unique passion that you have, you put those two things together, 1 and 1 is 11, and you can do exponential things with that. And so everyone has their own unique business model for success. It's just really about leveraging the things that we've all been through and tapping into those to do the great things that we can do.
Would you call it a memoir?
Somewhat, yeah.
Yeah.
To a degree, yeah.
So tech engineer.
A lot of great stories in there too, man. Yeah, I met Prince once. I was on a plane that crashed. A lot of great stories.
Wow. I'm not sure if I'm saying wow for meeting Prince or the plane crash. I suppose both.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Well, how'd you meet Prince? Tell us that one.
Sure. So I was I'm friends with a lady named Erykah Badu. She's a famous R&B singer from Dallas, Texas, which is my hometown. She's also from the same neighborhood, South Dallas. It's kind of like Cabrini Greens of Chicago. It was a very underserved neighborhood. I'm friends with her and her family, and so she would have these private birthday parties. Today, they're huge and thousands of people go to them. But back in the day, it would be private. And so she had Roy Ayers, Shaka Khan. She had Bilal, Music Soul Child, all these singers and famous people. And Prince was there. And so I was standing there, and a friend says, "Man, you're doing it when Prince shows up to your birthday party." Turn around and look, and sure enough, there's Prince. So I said, "Man, there's no way in the world Prince is coming this far to Dallas, and I'm not going to speak to the guy." Prince was the only person there who had bodyguards, and so I slipped in between. I was ear hustling a little bit when I heard his conversation, and I slipped between his bodyguards, and I turned to him and said, "What's up?" Prince turned and looked at me. He looked at me up, he looked at me down, he looked 5 or 6 times looking at me up and down, and then he slowly starts to turn back to his group of folks, but before he does, he says, "Hello."
That was it?
Yeah, that was it. And so when I'm sitting there with my friends, and they're looking at me like, "What in the world was that?" And I said, well, he's from Minnesota. That's how they say hello. It's all good, So, that was me meeting Prince, man. I said, "What's up?" And he gave me a J.J. Evans cello.
Well, that's cool. Did you ever see the interview with Fred Armisen on Howard Stern when they talked about having Prince when he came on SNL, and then the after party? It's very funny if you get a chance, because since you've met him.
I have to check it out, yeah.
Yeah, and just
there's so many Prince stories, man.
Yeah, he was I'm phenomenal talent, but I guess, one-on-one, when he wasn't on stage, he was different. I'll just use that word.
Yeah.
In his interactions with people, he wasn't quite, "Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you." He wasn't like that, apparently.
Yeah, I think all celebrities want to be normal to some degree, but I think the reason they are celebrities is because they embrace their uniqueness and the thing that makes them so great, and they just lean into it. And so Prince was that kind of guy. He leaned into his creativeness and all of that kind of stuff.
Well, a lot of them have trouble, and this is not knocking anybody who's famous, but I've met more famous people who were either the center of attention or absolutely invisible. They couldn't be in the middle. You know, they didn't have the ability just to be, like I said, like a, hi, how you doing, and talk about the weather. I mean, they couldn't be bothered with that. They either had to be on stage performing, doing what they did, or they didn't want to say a word and hide in the corner. And I've seen that more often, and, you know, I think it's the nature of the beast. So
you know, I think also to become that celebrity, right, charcoal has to go through a lot of heat and pressure to become a diamond. And so as we all get shaped into the thing that we're destined to be, especially those that are under extremely high pressure situations all the time, I think that, to your point, the nature of the beast, you know, going through the machine of Hollywood and through all the politics and the grit and grime of the dirty side of entertainment and all of that stuff, it probably changes people a little bit, you know?
Oh, I would think so.
Probably want to be a little more private,
Yeah, and probably a little bit more salty, a little more crusty, because you've gone through that kind of, I use the word abuse. You know, the more and more that comes out about Hollywood, you know, the more disgusting
filming that show, you get
to
to see some of that too. Exactly. You get to see why celebrities fuss about the things they fuss about and why it's important. You know, in a soundbite, you may not understand it, but at a production set, it starts to make more sense. It's like, oh, okay, you kind of have to maintain a certain level of things to keep things going.
Yeah. So is the book out? Has it been released?
The book is out. It has been released. It's done pretty well. Got some really good reviews. It hit a few bestseller lists on Amazon when we released it. And, you know, I've done some book tours that went really nice in Houston, New York, Dallas. And so, I'm really, really excited about it. I probably will work on another book soon, but really excited about how this one did.
Well, David, I think on that we're going to wind this down. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Last question. Do you have a website that you want to give out?
I do, sure. You can reach me or find me at davidcwilliamsinc.com, David C. Williams on LinkedIn, and David Chris Global on Instagram.
David Chris Global. Okay.
Yes.
All right, very good. Is there links? There's going to be links to your book from the website so people can take a look at it?
Yes, and it's real easy it's businessmodelbook.com. So, yes, there's a link on the website.
All right, great.
Real easy to find it.
Well, it was nice chatting with you. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Best of luck with the book and everything you're doing.
Thank you, Douglas. Thank you for the time, and Happy New Year's.